Hey filmmaker, welcome back to the tutorial series for the Weebill 2 gimbal. In today's video, we are going to be learning everything you need to know about the Weebill 2 LCD menu display. Let's have a closer look. Start off by flipping open the LCD screen on the Weebill 2 gimbal. You'll be greeted with a bunch of different options, starting off with the top icon and mode setting. This will be your several different shooting modes on the Weebill 2 gimbal. You can check out the specific tutorial that I covered about all of these shooting modes, but you can easily select each option simply by tapping them. Once you're done selecting your shooting mode, you can just swipe back and go to the previous menu. Under Mode Settings, you will see the balance checker. If you think your gimbal is properly balanced, check the balance checker to double check, and it will show you exactly which axis or motor is under stress. If you notice, if I push down on my camera, you will see the sliders turn yellow. This means that the tilt, roll, or pan axis is under stress and not properly balanced. You can see that with each individual axis. Once you're happy with your balance, swipe back, and now we can go to the advanced features. Here you'll find your time-lapse and motion-lapse options. You can set all of your intervals and frame rates along with the time to capture your time-lapse. Swipe back and go to motion lapse. Here you'll be able to reposition the gimbal and add different keyframes on how you want your gimbal to move throughout the whole entire motion lapse. Hit OK once you've added multiple keyframes. Then you can preview it to see how your motion lapse will look. Swipe back to access the other features. Below that is this icon. Here we have all of our fine-tuning adjustments. First we have parameter setting. This setting is responsible for controlling the gimbal's movements. First we have the motor settings. This will dictate the different torque settings for your gimbal's motors, the pan, tilt, and roll axis. These are pre-programmed torque settings, low, medium, and high. Under Customize, you'll be able to input your own individual power settings for the pan, roll, and tilt motors. This depends and varies on your camera setup, but you can also use the auto calibration feature, which is very useful and accurate. To change the values, press the plus and minus icons. Then swipe back and your changes will automatically be saved. Now let's swipe back and let's go into Smoothness. Smoothness is responsible for how smooth you want the gimbal to either pan, roll, or tilt. We have low, medium, high, and we have Customize. Now tap on Customize to put in your own custom settings for each individual axis when it comes down to the smoothness. Use the plus and minus icons here to increase the smoothness or decrease them. Swipe back and your options will be automatically saved. Swipe back again. And now we can go to follow speeds. Follow speeds are responsible for how you want the gimbal to react when you physically move the gimbal. How fast do you want it to react when you do so? For example, when you pan, or roll, or even tilt the gimbal, how fast do you want the gimbal to react to your physical movements? Here we have similar options. We also have Customize, which is very similar to what we saw under the smoothness settings. You can increase or decrease each option, and when you swipe back, they will automatically be saved. Let's swipe back again and go down to joystick responsiveness. This setting will control how fast you want the gimbal to react to the joystick, which is located on the left side of the gimbal. And just like the previous two options, we have Customize, so you can customize each axis individually. Swipe back and your settings will be saved. Scrolling down, you will have Deadband Settings. Tap on that and we will have low, medium, and high, and then Customize, just like the previous few settings that we had before. The deadband is responsible for the amount of degrees it will take for you to physically move the gimbal until the motors kick in. Hit Customize to put in your own custom settings. By default, you should have 0, 2, and 2. You can increase these numbers to have more degrees of movement until the gimbal kicks in to complete that movement. Again, if you swipe back, your settings will automatically be saved. Swipe back again, and then swipe back one more time. Next, we have auto calibration. This will actually auto-calibrate the gimbal and set the proper amount of power and torque to the motors depending on your payload. Press set and the gimbal will start to vibrate and make some noises. Don't worry, this is perfectly normal. Once done, hit OK. Now calibration is properly done. You can also reset the gimbal to its default settings by pressing this button right here. Next, let's go to this icon. Here is the control wheel, which you'll find on the left part of the gimbal. It's customizable, so it can control the roll, aperture, ISO, shutter speed, built-in electronic focus, the follow focus motor control, or the follow zoom motor control. Depending on what you want to use it for, select either of these options. For example, when I hit roll, the wheel will now control the roll action of the gimbal. When your camera is properly connected, you'll be able to also control the aperture of your camera. Same thing with ISO and shutter speed. And depending on which camera you're using, you may also be able to control the focus that's built in. If you're using a follow focus motor, you can either have it to control the focus or the zoom on your lens. Once you've made the selection, swipe back and it will automatically be saved. Now let's go to the follow focus motor settings. Here we can set the digital hard stop so that way you can't over torque your lens. Set the A first, then the B. If you want to reset the settings, hit this button right here. You can also change the sensitivity of the motor. Swipe back and your settings will be saved. Next we have fine tuning. Fine tuning will allow you to change the default degrees of the roll and the tilt motors. You can change it here by pressing the minus or plus button. Swipe back to save your settings. Next we have language. You can select your language for the menu of the gimbal. Under device information, here you'll find things like the device name, device model, serial number, and the firmware version. And if you notice, if you keep scrolling through this menu, it will automatically change the icons. So you don't only have to do this. Under more settings, you will see video transmission charging. Leave this off if your video transmitter is fully charged or not hooked up. This will save and preserve battery life. And there's one final setting, and that is the video transmission. How do you access that feature, and how do you enable auto tracking? That's pretty easy. Make sure your camera is turned on at this time. Also turn on your video transmitter. Once on, go to the top of the menu and swipe down. Give it a few seconds, it will beep, and then you will get live feed coming from your camera. Now have a subject walk into frame and press the front trigger and it will automatically begin tracking the subject. Remember, this option only works when the video transmission is hooked up and you're using the AI video transmission system. And that just about does it for today's video. Stay tuned for more content on the Weebill 2. Thanks for watching.